Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar Inside MindsDB Anton, our autonomous business intelligence agent. I am your host, Shande. I am the community and marketing coordinator of MindsDB. With us today is renowned AI ML expert and MindsDB advisor, as well as a best-selling author, Andriy Burkov, and also AI product manager of MindsDB, Alejandro Canto. Uh, in this session, Alejandro will be doing a presentation and Andre will be doing a demo. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the demonstration. Uh, Feel free to put all of your questions in the Q&A tab where we will answer them all. Um, in the meantime, there is a webinar chat. Please introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're from, what you do for a living. We also have a poll. Feel free to answer those questions. It really helps us improve our webinar. Before we start, Andre, can you just give us a brief description of what can people expect out of this webinar?
We will present Anton is a new agentic, we can call it agentic BI assistant. So it's a command line tool where a data analyst can talk to the tool in a regular English or maybe even in your native language and get the answers based on data. And the distinctive difference between Anton and, for example, the previous presentation where we presented Minds is that Anton is a fully agentic tool with that allows a language model to make all of the decisions. So without any, hacks or any hard-coded tricks to make it look agentic. So it's like a 100% agentic tool, which is super exciting for me to show.
Amazing. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to give over to Alejandro. Over to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. Alejandro Cantu. I'm super excited, as always, to be here joined with Andre. I think this is quite of a few webinars together, but I think this one really makes it special as we get to share with all of you Anton, which is our autonomous agent that we've been talking about, but also something that we're really proud to be able to share with everybody. So I'm going to share my screen. You let me just give me a quick thumbs up if you can see it. Awesome. All right. So first of all, and I know that this is the boring part of the presentation, and we're going to get into all the fun stuff that Andrew has been working on. But I just want to kind of give you an idea of what's Anton, how do we got here, and what makes Anton different and very special. So the first thing is how do we got here, right? Like over the last 10, 20 years, there's been all this promise about data and big data, and we've been generating data, storing data. And the answer for most of our questions are inside this data. And the industry as a whole, we've been building a lot of tools to help us to just find the answers, to dig deeper into the data and help us with our day-to-day decisions. Companies build dashboards, SQL editors, BI tools, even ourselves in MindDB over the last 5 years, 5, 6 years, we've been building federated query engines, text to SQL agents, all these tools to help people to be able to get to an answer. And we always find that the real challenge is getting the right answer in time. It's being able to look at that data and ask it and get the answer and get the insight for you to be able to make a decision. And the problem hasn't changed, right? Like we can see still what happens today, even with most of our tools that we built, data teams that have been using, and normally it goes something like this. You have a question, um, you don't really know how to SQL. Maybe you do if you're part of the developers audience here today, but then you have to really go in, figure out what's happened, uh, file a ticket. Maybe you get prioritized, then you have a dashboard. It shows you some numbers. It never shows you the why. And every insight eventually either shows late or shows incomplete. And I think like that's really what we're trying to solve here. It was like the problem was never the data. It was always the gap between the question and the answer. And that's what Anton really solves, right? We really come to the conclusion of like, what if you could just ask? What if you could just ask a question and have an analyst, a coworker, a friend that reads the data, that writes the code, that runs it and explains what it's found. And that's what Anton is all about. Is our open source autonomous agent that's able to look into data, get your insight, and being able to have what you need to be able to make the right decision. And Anton, we started building it as a BI tool. So he's really great at doing business intelligence, at dashboards, or looking at data. But the more we look into it, the more capabilities that it has. So we're really excited to see what all of you guys can do with Anton once you start testing it. So first of all, how does Anton makes it different? How does it work? And Anton finds the answer. And the way that he does it is because we're able to plan. It's able to figure out what he needs to do, what data he needs to look at, what memories does he have. He has to really figure out like all the different things that he has access to. Once he gets that planning, he writes real code. We're going to talk a lot about that today and executes that code and hands you back an answer. And every step of all this process is fully visible, it's audible, and users can just look how this Anton got to this answer. In essence, is if you had a coworker with a computer that you can just talk to that knew the answer and gonna get you there. And how it works, it's pretty much a loop of these 5 different steps. First, you ask a question in plain English. Then Anton's going to plan, which is the orchestrator, right? In this case would be which customers churned last quarter. Anton is going to look into what data does he have access. He knows what data he has. He has memories. Perhaps you have already asked this sometimes past in the past, so he knows what you mean by customers or what churned last quarter probably means. Like those are kind of generic, right? Like, but the end point is that he memorizes and uses his memories to be able to do that. Alternatively, it could be the first time that he ever looks at this data. So he knows that he's going to have to go and explore and see what's in there, find the right tables, find the connections. What are the relationships between the tables here? Once he gets to that, he's going to start writing code, SQL in Python, and he's going to be able to execute it in a scratchpad. So the scratchpad is one of the coolest concepts around Anton, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into that. But it's just an environment where he can just execute all the code he's just written. And lastly, it will finally give you an answer. And that answer can be in the form of text. It can be a dashboard. You can ask Anton to publish it. You can connect it to Slack and send it directly. It's really a full-on autonomous agent that allows you to do multiple things and actually get you to the right answer. And as I mentioned before, right, like every step of all this planning is completely auditable. So you can see how Anton got to an answer, what he was researching, what he was trying to really figure out and be able to get you to that answer. It's a really cool autonomous agent that's going to be able to go through this in loops if necessary, as he's able to find the real answer that you need for your question. So one of the things we mentioned is like the execution. So if Anton is able to plan, is able to consider what it knows, memories, things around it, the one thing that he wants to be able to do is like once you start writing this code, and this code runs in the Scratchpad. An easy way to think about this is kind of Anton's Jupyter own notebook. He's going to be able to run query, to write code, execute it. Maybe there's an error. He'll be able to heal himself and fix it. And once he's able to do that, all these states persist across time. So context carries forward. Every line of code is visible, so you can see what's actually being written on this dashboard. And then by the time he's done, the Scratchpad is killed on this environment, and like you don't really have to go back to it, but you can still see what happened in there. So it generates a safety environment for Anton to be able to generate, run code, and execute it. We're going to talk a little bit more deeper about this, and in the demo, we're going to see it in action. And one of the main differences that we really like about Anton is how memory applies, right? Our goal is that every session that you take with Anton makes the next one better. So Anton is going to be able to remember along multiple different things, like what are your rules that you apply to him, your definitions, right? Active users, someone that logs in more than 2 times. It will remember what happened in past sessions. It will summarize what happened in past session, and you'll be able to recall it, and you're able to bring this in the next turn. And there's lessons learned. After every session that you have, Anton will probably learn something. Hey, he asked me about users, but really what I want to be able to look at is this other table. He gets all this knowledge that gets implemented every time that you ask a question, and that makes it really interesting and really powerful. So I'm about to come to an end here, and like we're gonna get for everyone to get started today. Like Anton is open source. You just go to github.com/mindsdb/Anton. You can get started right there. Or you want to start with mdb.ai, go to mdb.ai-quick start, quick_start, and you can get your first month for free. You're going to get 5 million tokens, so you can start really doing things. We also have the CLI where we're going to be focusing a lot today, where you can have apps for Mac and Windows that are available for you to download, and also you have your own app, a desktop experience. Again, like if you get stuck or need an API key, like quick reminder, we have our MindsDB community on Slack. We're happy to jump in there and ask any questions or anything to get stuck on. We're looking forward to get feedback and input as you guys start looking into Anton. But there's so much of that slides and me explaining this can do. Let's really get into the action with this. So thanks, Andriy. Handing over to you. And with that, I'm just going to finish that. Finally, we just have somebody that we can ask those questions and get answers right away.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Alejandro. Okay, guys, I will share because the difference, if you as were assisting my previous webinars, I I shared a Jupyter notebook because I show it like a hands-on tutorial about how to interact with MindsDB different features. This one will be a demo of a command line interface. So I will share my entire desktop. Please don't be afraid looking at it because it's my working environment. So lots of stuff is running. So give me a sec. I will share my screen. Okay. Okay. Is it good? Can you see it? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is my command line. So for those who are familiar with command line, so nothing to explain here. It's pretty standard command line on Mac. For those who are new to the command line, basically it's a way to execute commands on a computer without using the graphical user interface. The advantage of this is that graphical user interface usually covers a very small set of features available in the operating system, and command line allows you to get access to everything the operating system can do, including installing different applications that don't have any graphical user interface. And Anton is one such application. Again, for those who are familiar with using Claude Code or Codex command lines, the experience will be very similar. So basically, to to install Anton, you execute this command. So UV is a pro, it's a package manager for Python. You maybe also are familiar with pip, another package manager. I think that currently UV is the only way to install Anton. I think that maybe pip will be added later. So basically, you take this command, which is available on the page that Alejandro shared on GitHub. So you take this command, you execute it in your command line. So I already executed it earlier. So for me, Anton is now installed. And once it's installed, I can just type. Currently, I'm in this location on my hard drive. So let's say you want to work in some specific location. So to you can go there, and then you just type Anton in this directory on your hard drive. And here we go. We have Anton running in our command line in our terminal window. So what can we do? So there is help you can execute to see what kind of commands Anton accepts. So Alejandro said that it accepts regular English, but for simplicity, there are some commands that are kind of meta commands, not attached to any data set you work with, but more like commands of Anton itself. So it allows you to get help, to configure it in some ways, and so on. So for example, if I execute /LLM, I can choose the LLM provider and set my API key. I already made this, so it's configured for me. But when you will run for the first time, Anton, you will have to set up your key. Also, an important command here is connect. Anton is a data analyst's assistant. So to be helpful to the data analyst, you need to show Anton where the data is. So what we will do, we will connect to one source, the data source that we already have. So as you can see, Anton can access a variety of different data data hosters. I don't know how they call it. Data database management systems. So our data is on Amazon Redshift. So Anton asks me to choose where my data is. So I see that I have Amazon Redshift on the list. So my database server type is supported. So I choose the option 1 here. And now Anton asks me whether I need instructions how to get these credentials it will need to connect, or I already have it. I already have it, so I answer no to this question. It asks me whether I have all the values I need. I say yes. Okay, now it asks me the host. So give me a sec. Where was I? Okay. So here I have my credentials, which I could obtain from my AWS account, and you too as well. So I would put host here. Now the next question is port. So I answer port, then give it a port. Then it asks me the database type. It's Postgres. So then it asks me about the user. Give it the user. Then I need to provide a password. Schema is on Postgre is public, so I put public, and that's it. So it connected. It tells me that actually I already connected to this source before. So it asked me would I want to reconnect or cancel. So I would type reconnect. And that's it. So now Anton knows where my data is. So it managed to connect, but it doesn't know automatically what this data looks like. And I might not know it either because, for example, let's say I'm a data analyst and my manager says, "Oh, we have this data source that contains 3 years of data about our users, our clients, or our contracts. So I need you to analyze it and provide me answers to questions 1, 2, and 3." So before I start myself to, to work as a data analyst, I would like to know what the data is. So from now on, as soon as we are connected, I can talk to Anton the way I would talk to a person actually. So I want to know what the data looks like. So this is my first question. Explain the data to me and show examples of some tables. So you will see now the thinking process of Anton. So as Alejandra said, in Anton, the principal the principal place where most of the action happens is called scratchpad. A scratchpad is basically a Python process that runs like all the time, and it can connect inputs and it prints outputs to the standard output. So Anton knows that this scratchpad is available and it knows what it can do. So it's a Python process. So Anton can submit well, it's not a Python process. It's more like a process that can execute Python in particular. So Anton knows that it can submit Python script there. They will be executed in this process, and once the execution is over, the output will be printed on the standard output, and Anton will get this standard output back. So as you can see, so it used Scratchpad 4 times here. So the first time it used it to connect to Redshift. Then it executed row count for each table. It sampled several tables, mentioning their names, and and again it sampled several tables actually. And this is the output that it provides. So it provides the output in a user in a like a plain English with some formatting. So we can see that it provides us a general description of what this data set is. So what it is end-to-end consumer loan lifecycle data set. From a borrower applying for a loan throughout underwriting, disbursement, repayment, and when things go wrong, collection. There are 10 tables, and this is the list of the tables. So all of this that what we look at, it wasn't hard-coded in any way, okay? So Anton knows that it is a data analyst assistant. So it was instructed to provide result in some specific human readable format, but all of this is based on this specific data set, and should data set be different, the output would look probably entirely differently. Maybe the list of tables would not contain the column rows or something like this. So it's up to Anton to decide how to present the data, but you can, of course, by a follow-up request, you can say, show me also this, or show me also that, and so on. So we see now, let's say I spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes to read this. Now I have a good understanding of what this data set is. And now let's say I want to execute some exploratory queries to have a better grasp of what it looks like. Again, let me be lazy and let me ask Anton to suggest me some queries that I could execute that would make me familiar with the data set, like as fast as possible without going into some minor details, and have a bigger picture. So what I will say, I will ask suggest three exploratory queries. Well, queries for me to become familiar with this data set in plain English. So now Anton will think about, it will try to come up with some examples of queries, and I asked for three, so I have three here. What does the typical borrower look like? Provide the applicant base, average income, most common employment type, top states, top states, how these traits correlate with the risk tier they got assigned. Answers, who is this lender serving? Okay, I will just copy this. Let's imagine that I am a data analyst and this is what I actually want to know. So I paste it into Anton, and now it takes this as my actual request for analytics. So now it will again use the scratchpad, and we can see in high level details how the scratchpad is used. So Anton, first of all, it plans what scratchpads it needs to use. When I say scratchpads, well, it's always the same scratchpad. So basically, as Alejandro said, a scratchpad, you can have a mental model of it as if it was a Jupyter notebook. So it also contains the concept of a cell. It contains the concept of a shared variables. So every time Anton executes a scratchpad, it's executed in the same notebook. So all previous all previous cells and their results are available for all subsequent cells. So, for example, if Anton already obtained some aggregated value for some column, for example, in some table, it doesn't need to re-execute the same query. It will reuse the result from previous cells. Okay, so now we look at the output. So who is the lender serving? Okay, so the typical borrower, we see the average income is this, median income is that, employment status, top state, California. Okay, now where they work, tech, 31 people, average income, and so on. Why they're borrowing, debt consolidation, other home improvement. So for me, again, I'm not a data analyst, but if I were, I would say that it looks very nice, like a very nice high-level description of who is the typical client of this company based on the data set. Okay, so we can go up and see if there is any other interesting question I might ask. Which loan officers have the best and worst portfolio outcomes? Oh, okay. I would like to know my employees, how good they are. Okay, let's see. So now that I know my customers, I would also like to know my employees, who is the best of them and who is the worst. So we see that according to the plan, Anton gets officer delinquency rates and risk tier mix, computes expected delinquency per officer based on the risk tier, merge actual with expected. So again, every scratchpad step here, it's like Anton is creating a new cell in the same notebook and put some Python code there. It's executed and the result is streamed back to Anton. So Anton, it's a kind of an LLM that always runs in the loop. So every time it decides to run something on the scratchpad, it calls the tool called scratchpad. It puts code to execute in this scratchpad. Then there is an orchestrator that takes this code, submit it directly in this Scratchpad, let it run, or if it fails, it will return the failure to the LLM. The LLM will update the code, again, resubmit it to the Scratchpad until the output looks what the LLM expected it to look. And it continues this way until the goal of answering this question is reached. And again, it's LLM that decides whether it's satisfied with the results obtained from the sequence of Scratchpad calls, whether it answered the question or not. And it will continue to run the Scratchpad until it either gets the answer or it reaches the maximum number of trials and fail. So it will say, I consumed all the Scratchpad uses for a single question, and I couldn't answer the question. It might happen, but again, it should be a question that it's not answerable, or something is really wrong with the environment, so something systematically fails. Yes, one interesting thing while we are waiting is that within a Scratchpad, okay, one can start. This LLM can decide that within a Scratchpad it will start another loop. Okay, so basically it might start another loop, and within this loop there will be another instance of the LLM that will use its this Scratchpad as well. Okay, so this other loop will be kind of a sub agent that will have its own goal to solve, and this sub agent can use the Scratchpad again in multiple steps. So it's kind of a dream within a dream within a dream. So you can the solution can be can have a arbitrary depth. I think that there is some kind of parameter that configures how deep it can go. Okay, so now what we see here, loan officer rankings. Okay, so we have top 5 best officers, and we have Amelia Eng. Something is not good with her, apparently, or it's her name with the question with exclamation mark. I don't know. So we have the number of loans, we have expected rate, we have actual, and we have outperformance. Okay, so Amelia really outperformed here, but other folks underperformed. So Amelia should get a prize like this one, and everyone else, well, need to improve. The worst officer. Okay, wow. So we have here Michael Hall really underperformed like a lot. So if I was Michael Hall, I would be worrying. Okay, so this is how it works. Now, one cool thing about Anton is that you can ask it to create a dashboard. So a dashboard shows like a bigger picture of the data that Anton has access to. And the request for the dashboard is quite simple. You just say generate a dashboard again in simple English. You can provide other details. Okay, so you don't need to ask such a generic question like show me a job dashboard. You can because you know the data set, so you are the analyst, you have answers to questions to answer. So you might say show me a dashboard that shows me a pie chart of this, a bar graph with that, and so on and so on. So you can think of the dashboard that you want, or you can ask Anton to propose an idea of a dashboard. So you can say, what kind of dashboard would represent the current state of the data set for me, allowing me to answer most typical questions that I get daily, which are question A, question B, question C. Then Anton can explain to you what kind of graphs you would have on this dashboard, and you might say, well, yeah, I don't need this one, but I would like to have this one, or in this graph also show that column, and so on and so on. And then once you're satisfied with the verbal description of the dashboard, you can then say generate it, and it will generate. But again, because I am not a data analyst, I'm faking one, so I leave it up to Anton to come up with the best dashboard it can get. Again, everyone who worked with LLMs, and we have been working with LLMs for 3 years now, knows that Anton is not a human being, okay? And LLM is not a brain. So if you just ask something like this, generate a dashboard, prepare that some of those graphs will be relevant, some might be so-so, and some might be irrelevant. And it's okay because you are the data analyst, not Anton. So if you see that something on the dashboard is not what you expected, then you just provide a follow-up request, just as you would do if you talked to ChatGPT. Like if you don't like the result, you say, no, this is this is not what I asked. I asked about XYZ, and eventually it will come up with something close to what you expect. Yeah. So while we are waiting, so Alejandro. Okay. Well. Um, okay. Well, this is cool, I think. So we see average loan size. We see the number of loans. We see the approval rate, number of application, and total number of applicants. We see a pie chart of loan purposes, the income of our customers by industry, states of the applicants. Well, again, if I were a data analyst, I would say that it's a nice dashboard that represents quite at a high level the details that I might want to see. If not, as I said, I can always follow up and ask to replace some dashboard with something else, or to add, for example, to this dashboard a third bar that is missing for me because I need it, and so on. But again, I will not do it because we will wait for another 5 minutes. So what we can do next, once let's say like we did this back and forth with Anton, and now I really like the dashboard that I have. Now I can publish it, and I can publish it and I can share it with my colleagues, or with the office entirely. Okay. So again, there is a command for this, publish. So it publishes an HTML report to the web. So I just execute publish. Yeah, so that the dashboard is visible on the web, we need a website on which it would be published. So MindsDB offers to its clients a website for this, call it mdb.ai. To have access to it, you need to create an account and get an API, create an API key. I have this key here. So I'm back to Anton, and I answer yes to the question, and then I paste my key. And yeah, so it asked me which dashboard I want to publish. So you are not limited to a single dashboard. We might ask Anton to generate a dashboard for about customers, a dashboard about agents or officers, a dashboard about the financial situation of the company, and so on. So we generated only one. So I select this one, and now Anton is publishing it. And here you go. So now you see this URL. I can share it with anyone. I don't know if it works in incognito. Let's try. Yeah, well, it works even in incognito. So basically, you can share it with anyone, and they don't even need to create an account with MindsDB, which is cool because not everyone needs an account, and getting access to something this way, it's much more user convenient. So yeah, this was the core of my presentation. I also wanted to show you a high level of Anton architecture. So Alejandro explained the major parts, but I just wanted to show you how they are interconnected here. So the user accesses Anton through the command line. Also, by the way, MindsDB has a Mac and a Windows graphical user interface version of Anton, which is which are finalized, and I tried them, and they worked. So if you are less familiar with command lines, I think you will appreciate graphical user interface. But overall, even those graphical user interface have the command line as their working machine. So the user access Anton through command line. Then there is the concept of chat sessions. So you can create different sessions. So every session will be around some solving a specific problem. So once a chat session is created, then there is an LLM provider. In the beginning, you remember it asks me whether I want to choose whether it's Anthropic or ChatGPT and provide an API key. So I didn't do it because I already was connected, but you will, as a user, you will have to choose one. And so there are tools. So again, for those who are not familiar with tools, basically the first LLMs, for example, the ChatGPT of 2020 December 2022 edition didn't have the concept of a tool. So it was only trained to talk. It could not execute anything. So the first thing that people started to think about, like, for an LLM to be useful for me, I would like not just to be able to get answers, but also I would like to be able the LLM to say execute this code and show me the output, and then execute this one and show me the output. But again, the user didn't want it to be manual, so they wanted the LLM to be able to call those tools directly. But again, LLM cannot call anything. It's a language model, so it can only output tokens. So the user invented a hack, call it tools. Basically, they explained to the LLM in the beginning of the conversation that there is such a tool called, for example, Python runtime. So if you want to execute some script, you should output tool equal Python runtime, payload equal, and then Python code. So all modern models are trained this way, and the user, the creator of the system defines different tools. And in Anton, there is a tool called Scratchpad, for example. So every time Anton needs to run something in the Scratchpad, it will output something like tool Scratchpad payload X. And then a parser will extract this from the LLM's output, call the actual Scratchpad, run the payload, get the result back, and inject the result into the LLM's chat, so that the LLM can say, okay, now I see the result of the execution for this Scratchpad. I can continue with my plan. And this tool dispatcher has access to the Scratchpad. As I said, it's one tool. There are also others. For example, Cortex is a memory tool. So basically, every time the user uses Anton and provides any information that might be useful in the future, Anton decides to store some of these informations within memory files like Markdown or JSON values. For example, some configurations, some information. For example, the user said, "I'm located in San Francisco, California. Okay, so it will be noted next time. The Anton will not ask what is your location, something like this. There is also data vault where all secrets are stored, and the publisher, the one that we use to publish the dashboard. Yeah, so as I said, like what is really exciting for me specifically in with Anton is that it's pure LLM based project problem solving. There is no anything hard coded that takes the control of the LLM because the LLM couldn't handle it, do something, and then again start continue using the LLM. No, it's LLM that decides at every step what needs to be done. So what needs to be done for the problem to be solved, for your answers for your question to be answered. And the LLM will use all resources available to it to achieve the goal. So the more data sources you give it, if you give it access to the web, it will even go to search the web and fill the blanks that maybe your data might have before answering the questions and so on. So I really recommend because it's open source, it's so easy to install. As I shown, it's just execution of one line in terminal. So try it and just feel free to ask any question you want, and just try to feel the vibe of working with your data this way. It's really impressive, I would say. Yeah, so this was for me.
Thank you so much, Andrei. That was very insightful. We are heading into the Q&A portion of this webinar. Feel free to post any questions you have in the Q&A tab. Just select more and then the Q&A button. If you have posted any questions in the chat tab, please just repost them in the Q&A tab. Okay, so let's ask a couple of questions to Andrei and Alejandro. First question is, what model is Anton using to write the code? Is it a native LLM or something like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, etc.?
Thanks, Chandra. So this question has a couple of answers over here. One of them is I'm going to start introducing the concept of one of the benefits of using Anton with an MDB.ai account. So one of the things you'll notice people as you start like logging into Anton is going to give you different ways to actually connect Anton to an LLM. And there's either using an MDB.ai API key that you can get by going into mdb.ai, mdb.ai/quickstart. And what that will give you is using the LLM directly through MDB, or something that we call our LLM and LLM pass-through mode. In that way, we are optimizing the LLM calls depending on what we need to do. So, for example, when Anton needs to do a reasoning model, we're using always frontier models, like could be usually we're using Claude Sonnet 4.6. But when Anton needs to code, it will use Haiku. So there's like this model routing system that happens inside MDB.ai that allows Anton to be more token efficient and also be more model efficient, so we can reduce the kind of latency. So definitely recommend people to go through MDB.ai, get an API key, and you're going to get the first 5 million tokens for free. So that's also really cool if you just want to get started on it. Another option is bringing your own key. So whenever you go into logging, it'll give you an option to bring your own key. And in that sense, you can select which model you want to be able to use. We recommend using frontier models, but you can use Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google or Gemini. If that's what you want, you get your API key. Then also you can select the model that you want Anton to be using as you have your different sessions that are going to go on there. One key difference that happens between MDB.ai API keys and you bringing your own key is that model rounding is one of the things that's only available through MDB.ai. And if you go through, you bring your own key, you'll be able to set up that model, but you don't really have that many capabilities to change the different models that are going inside of Anton.
Thank you. Next question is, which is a two-part question. One, does it support open source LLMs via Ollama? And two, Is there the possibility to add a semantic layer slash model so that Anton has better context about the database schemas?
Yes. So currently, for using Olama and any other like local models, there is a way to use an OpenAI endpoint once you go to endpoint. So as long as it's OpenAI compatible, you could probably get into that one to be able to use Olama on that version. However, having said that, I would totally recommend that you use Anton with a frontier model, right? To go into that perspective to understand tokens and goes happen when you do Olama. So talking about semantic layer and for adding your database schema. One of the things that we have been doing in the past, right, when if you probably attended one of our webinars from last year, we showed our first agent, which is a text-to-SQL agent that we used on MindsDB. And we worked a lot on getting there to be able to have a semantic layer on top of that agent. So we built the data catalog. We would figure like what's inside of it. So we can like really insert all this data into the model to be able to generate the actual real question. That helped us to get a lot more for like one single loop premise agent. But once we start working with Anton in more an autonomous way, the more we work with it, we've more figured out that like the semantic layer is not that necessary for Anton, as Anton can really figure out most of the details of the database on its own, as long as you know there's the database, and it can also ask you the questions to be able to do that, and you can tell Anton like what like the semantic layer as it goes into it. So you can totally connect it if you have it somewhere. So Anton will figure like and do the mix and match between the semantic layer and the database schema, but definitely do uh, would encourage people to just go in, connect the data source, and just go and see the power of Anton to explore and understand databases and data sources, even without the semantic layer that usually we were doing before.
Yeah, and if I may add to this, Alejandro, I agree 100%. So I know that many of folks, and myself included, we started to work with data before AI. Okay, so first we worked with keywords. Okay, now then regular expressions. So what keywords or regular expressions can I apply to see what the data looks like? Okay, how many of these words can I find versus that word? Then embeddings came to the picture, and we are like, oh wow, now I can embed my records, and I can cluster them by embedding similarity. So these records are about supply, these are about demand or whatever. But then LLMs came into the picture, and they were context limited. And we again, for example, when we talked about RAG, retrieval augmented generation, so LLM couldn't put much in their content. So we're like, okay, we will use embeddings to find the most relevant pieces of information to this user query, and then just put this information into the context. But then the context grew, and now, for example, Claude, it's 1 million, I guess, tokens, and ChatGPT, I'm not sure, but it's at least 250K. So, and this is one. And the second thing is agentic feature, where the LLM decides what it needs to look at rather than we decide what we show it. Okay, so for example, previous LLMs for when you use them for coding, they would say, okay, show me your code base, and I will fix your problem. And if your code base couldn't put entirely in the context, then you would have to kind of decide, okay, I will just show this part. Maybe it's the only one which is relevant. Today, agentic coders, they use grep, for example, the search, where they generate keywords to search in the code, gather all possible results matching these keywords, and then figure out whether some of those pieces found using search are relevant. If not, they will tweak the keywords and keep searching until they find the right piece. The same about Anton. So Anton doesn't need you to decide what to embed and what kind of search among those embeddings Anton needs to do. Anton might say, okay, I want to have a picture of this table. I will sample 10 random records. If it's not enough, now based on the 10 random records, I will sample more records, but with this and this and this value in the columns. And by doing this sampling based like exploration of a table, it can create a very, very good picture of what this table is. And this picture would be task specific, but your embedding would be generic. So it will be one embedding for all tasks. So I would not, as Alejandra said, like try it for yourself. If you see that Anton is, you ask it about the vegetables, but the answer is always about fruits. Well, something is wrong. Maybe you need to provide some embeddings that explain the difference between vegetable and fruit. But I would be surprised that someone can find an embedding based case that cannot be solved with this iterative purpose driven sampling.
Amazing. Okay, next question is from Hari. He said, in case he missed this portion, is the data connected via semantic layer? He's trying to understand how the join keys and meta definitions are defined.
Yeah, so I think it's similar to this last question that we just answered right before. I think Anton will be able to have that capability to search inside the data and understand what's inside of it. And so as long as like, of course, things like better table definitions and metric definitions and column names and descriptions always help agents to be able to understand things a little bit better. But that's in essence, Anton will have the capability to really like looking into the data and try to figure out like what's inside of it and how does it goes. The one thing to note here as well is that by Anton's memory and the way that it learns through the data, right? Like, and as Andrew was mentioning, like, Anton is always giving me vegetables when I ask for fruit. Once you like have a couple of rounds with Anton, you can always tell him like, hey, remember, this is always about fruits, right? Or user activities, 3 or more. And then it starts making all of those into actual memories. So for the next type of next queries, he knows always that you want to see fruits and not vegetables. But going a little bit deeper into that, like this could be something like, hey, we have users and customers that never really like pie charts, so never do a pie chart. Or I always want to be able to see this kind of information in my dashboard. So it kind of really helps Anton learn how you want to work, what are your preferences, and so the more you work with Anton, the better it gets at memories, the better it gets at functionality, and the better to understand what is inside the data. One, pro tip, right? Like if you're able to figure out, if you go with Anton, you ask a few questions, and you got the right answer, it's always good to just say, "Hey, Anton, actually remember this." He will do it automatically, but if you really want to make sure that he remembers it, uh, just tell him, Anton, remember this.
Okay, next question is, can the link to the dashboard be secured for colleagues only, for instance? And we have another question that's similar, which asks, how can we share Anton dashboards privately, for example, without exposing it on the entire web?
Yes, and I think there's even a third question that's also around that, which is how to publish the data for enterprise environments. So these are features that are on our roadmap. Currently, you can publish the dashboard, and they're going to go public to the whole web. One of the things that we're building, and please keep us posted, keep on the community, is now having the possibility to use like who do you want to share this functionality specifically within teams or enterprise environments. So that's coming along the ways. In the meantime, you can always use the dashboard that's been generated by Anton, and you can share it directly as an HTML file with your colleagues or in a specific chat. Or if you want to host it, you can host that file that was generated in a specific, I guess, sharing platform or something along those lines. But yeah, we hear this as one of our main roadmap items is how do we not just only being able to share functionality, we're also working into Anton being able to share like workflows and tasks and things that you're able to do. So if I find a nice way to figure out why our customers churning this month, right? Like I might want to share all that processing and reasoning that I have with Anton so other users can also continue that flow and ask for more specific questions.
Amazing. Okay. Next question is from Michael, which is also two questions actually. Uh, okay, so question one was already answered for him. Second question from him is there access to edit the memory in case there are errors?
Yes. So today there's a command slash memory that is going to help you look into what's inside memory and how does it work. We are also coming to a roadmap, and I think we're going to release probably by the end of this week a more complete feature to actually being able to look at the specific memories where they where are they stored and where are they are specifically, also with the more complete memory functions around that happening around Anton. Definitely, there's more information about memory on our GitHub memory files. We're going to share that in the chat so people can look at this. But in the meantime, right, Anton is really cool in that sense that you can ask him, hey, like, what's in the memory? Like, what do you have in memory? Show me what you have, edit it. So you can have a session with Anton to just go in and see, like, what's in memory and what's not there. And, like, that's a way to do it today. We kind of want to have it this a little bit more programmatically because I think, like, we're more used as humans to see, all right, I want to see a list rather than probably a conversation for these type of things. But Anton can totally do that today if you ask him, hey, show me your memories, or I want to edit the memory, or that kind of functionality.
Yeah, I would add here that when I work, for example, with coding agents, and there is this agents.md file with different constraints and instructions, I'm too lazy to actually manually edit it. So I ask the agent itself, like, add this constraint to agents.md so the next time you don't repeat this stupid mistake and it works quite well. But yeah, there should be a possibility to do it manually, of course, but I think most people will do it by texting with the agent itself.
Michael also asked an additional question is, can you add multiple data sources for Anton to work against at once, like across multiple schemas, APIs, and databases?
Yes, this is one of the coolest features that we have seen with Anton. Like actually, our CRO Brad here at MindsDB connects all the information from hotspot, from user activity to emails to data enrichment pieces that are happening all inside of Anton to be able to generate a full comprehensive system of the type of thing. So the way to do that is you add all these different data sources. You tell Anton what to look for, what and where. You can do it probably on its own, but like you're giving more guidance, probably going to be better. But this is a really cool thing that we're able to get to do that. Also, another kind of cool thing here in the data sources is that when you go slash connect, you're going to see that we have some sort of the default data sources that have been useful for us. And we started going into that perspective. But there's option 0, or maybe option 1. I don't really remember. But that is to add your own like data source that might not be built into that. And Anton will give you and find the way to connect to a data source, even if it's API driven or we haven't listed into that capability. And it's really cool that we, in a way, MindDB, we're always kind of constrained of building data handlers for a federated query engine and being able to put everything inside. But now Anton can have the capability to access data and APIs on the fly as long as you know which campus you have the credentials to go for it.
Yeah, and remember what I said about the Scratchpad being a kind of a notebook with preliminary results being stored and accessible for further cells. So, for example, if for answering your question, Anton needs to access several different sources located in different databases, so they cannot be directly joined and so on. What it will do, it will query the first source, get the data it needs, save it on the cell, and in the subsequent call, in the subsequent cell, it will call another source and will compare the values from the previous cell with the values from the current cell, and only keep those that match a specific key. So this will be kind of a join, but executed in several steps. So even where joins are not physically possible, via this cell-based step-by-step solution, it is possible. Well, will be slower, of course, but it would be as slow if you do it manually.
Okay, next question we might have answered to a certain capacity, but Alejandro, feel free to reiterate. What is the best way to teach Anton with some business rules so he follows them in future conversation? And if I want to have the same business rules share with other Anton users in the company?
All right. So to answer the first part of the question, conversationally with Anton, right? Like you tell him like what are the business rules, what do you want, and he'll start remembering them and apply them for future conversations as it goes into that one. So having a conversation with Anton, telling him like what are those business rules, and we go. So about sharing in the same business rules for the company or different teammates, we're working on this feature specifically. We're gonna come in really soon and probably gonna have some new webinar to kind of discuss how we're thinking about team and sharings and rules and topics that it can apply for different type of teams around a company. So right now, definitely Anton works in a little bit more of a single user type of perspective in terms of memories and complaints. We do have an enterprise version of it that like actually solves this problem if people want to go a little bit deeper into that. But but for the team perspective, we're going to be launching this feature really soon. And the main idea behind it is that how can like the knowledge that's not just around the organization, but also the knowledge around the individual users can contribute to other people's performance. So per, for example, right, like I might be able to find to teach Anton, hey, this is the right way that I want to be able to query triggers, or like this is a task that I want to be able to use. This is the flow. I want to be able to share that to other team members as tasks or as memories or as rules or as topics. So everyone can take benefit of the actual work that's been happening around Anton into that perspective. So a little bit more of that to come, but you can see that functionality evolving from what you can have today as it goes into the future for team capabilities.
Amazing. And next question is, if we'd like to get a repetitive analysis slash dashboard done on a daily, weekly basis, how do we overcome this without rewriting the whole ask again? For example, in cloud, we can create a skill for it and then just run it on demand while it pulls new fresh data and reruns the whole structured analysis. Is this currently possible with Anton, or is it something you are looking to add as a feature in the future?
So one of the another kind of cool things about Anton is how powerful he is in these terms of functionality in the thing. So most of the features that we're asking in these questions and this chat, even though we're building it as specific features that are going to be easy to access and easy to redo or share, they're already kind of being easily done by Anton. So you can just ask Anton to get this done from a daily or a weekly basis and post it somewhere. So we will be able to do that from an agentic perspective. So not in the same way as like a skill for cloud code would work that it just goes into that, like he would just keep on running that like in the back end. He can even create like a server locally to run a specific script every few hours, and you can ask it to post the results in Slack and WhatsApp. So it's a really kind of powerful thing in his capability to do live dashboards or servers or things that you want to be able to do that. So definitely encourage Sergey to go in and test and ask Anton to do this kind of things for him. And it's one of the things that also like our teams internally have been really good at is that how do you can get this coworker agent to be able to do things for you repeatedly. Having said that, we're also working on reusable tasks and workflows. And that's another thing that we want to be able to share more broadly, especially for the team functionality individual users, that these tasks and workflows can run in the background, but also don't have to run locally. So we're looking more into like a cloud execution for these tasks that's going to come in soon. But yeah, I think people are asking the questions in the right direction. It's like, how do we make this more shareable? How do we make this more for teams? Because of the value that you can find and create along those sites. And that's something that we're actively working on.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sergey, for all of your questions. Okay, we have two more questions. With large databases, have you done any sort of context engineering so that only relevant context is fed based on the question?
That is a good question that I'm not 100% sure if I understand the right the framing from this one. But in essence, Anton, if we ask him to do this in the right specific way, he will probably execute it in the right direction. I don't know if Andrew, you probably have more insights into how to answer this question, but like,
Uh, Chandra, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, the question is with large databases, have you done any sort of context engineering so that only relevant context is fed based on the question?
Oh, okay. Well, again, for those who are familiar with coding agents, some code bases can be extremely large. Okay, so some can span multiple departments and they are interconnected with APIs. In most production cases, the entire code base wouldn't fit into the context of an LLM. The same for Anton. So we don't expect that Anton can read the entire table, or I'm not saying about the entire database, or it cannot read multiple databases entirely. So what it does is that it tries to answer your question by staying within the limits that it has. And those limits have been pre-trained into an LLM. So the LLM is aware that it cannot really, put everything in the context and think that it will help. So Anton will, first of all, plan how to reach the terminal state in which your question is answered. And to achieve this plan, it will say, I will first call this, then I will call that, then I will call that. So when it will call a specific source for data, it will see whether this data can be read entirely and put in memory, or like in the context, or it needs to be, for example, sampled, or it needs to be processed batch by batch. So if it sees that it tried to read everything, put it into the context, and it failed, it will adjust the plan and say, okay, I tried it with this full select. I see that it doesn't fit. I will proceed batch by batch. And if you know that some of your sources are like that, and you see that Anton continuously tries to read all of them first, and then it fails, and then it retries, you can add the instructions to these markdown files by saying, okay, when reading the data from this table, do it by batches. But also, as I said earlier, that Anton has memories. So if Anton sees that something it tried resulted in a failure, and then it found a batch by batch solution, there are high chances that because there is a lesson type of memories, so it will remember this as a lesson for the future calls, and the next time it will know, okay, in one of the lessons it tells me to access this specific table in a batch by batch way rather than trying to read it entirely. So it's highly adaptable, and it's up to you, a human, to provide those constraints, those additional tricks that you know better, because you know the data better than Anton. But Anton will learn the tricks as you use it.
Amazing. Okay, our last question for the webinar is, can I share my Anton's dashboard, conversation, and sketchpad with my colleague for them to follow up on their own questions without having to start the conversation from scratch?
again, some of the really good questions, I think our audience here really is looking for the right kind of features and the ones that we're working on. So currently, only we can share dashboards is one of the things that you can do with /publish. but we're working definitely on having to be able to share all that functionality in terms of not just only the dashboard, but the reasoning process, how they got to an answer, so people can continue that conversation from there instead of going from the beginning. So a little bit more of these things like coming to the roadmap that we're going. We're iterating really fast in Anton as we work on this. So we'll definitely take all of these feedback into our roadmap, and we'll be looking forward to sharing as we go more deeper into these kind of cool features. So thanks for that.
Amazing. Okay. So that was it for our questions. Before we finish off, Alejandro and Ande, are there any closing thoughts?
For me, it would be like if I can share my personal experience as AI product manager here in MindsDB, and it was we've been working so hard to be able to answer questions about data over the last 2 years, and most of the things we were asking questions were more about um, the real reason and the real insight behind it. So we worked really hard to answer the initial basic questions. How much did we sell last year? Who is the best? Who is the best customer? Those type of questions that are in a way easy to figure out what's the right sequel to it. But we're never really able to figure out like what was the question behind the question, right? Like why did sales drop? Why did sales increase? Why is this why is this person the best salesman? Like, and Anton can really get those answers, can really figure out what are the correlations between sales and other tables and user activity and CRM information, and can really go in and to figure out and find out why something is happening and get you the right insight to what you need. So to me, this is what's been mind-blowing of Anton, and really super excited to continue to be working on this and share this. And by the end, just to finish, I can't wait to see what people are able to build with Anton. Please do share. Please do come back to us. Please do give us feedback. Please join our community where we can learn more about and like build a better Anton for us and for everybody. So thanks to Andre.
Andre,
Uh, yeah, very quickly. Um, it's open source, okay? So I really encourage everyone who wants to know how state-of-the-art agentic systems are built to look into this project and just get an idea of how different it is today compared to, let's say, 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not even talking about like 5 to 10 years ago. I finished my PhD in 2010, and it was in AI. But today, what we call AI and what we called AI back then, it's very very different. Yeah, they still share a lot of common things, but the scale at which AI works today was unimaginable at my time of PhD. So like MindsDB made a great decision to share their code with everyone. So use this as an opportunity to learn.
amazing. Thank you so much. Firstly, thank you so much, Ande. Really loved your presentation. I mean, your demonstration. Thank you so much for your time. It's always lovely to have you with us. And then also thank you, Alejandro, for your presentation and answering all of these questions. And then lastly, thank you to all of the participants who stayed till the end and also for your questions. This webinar is recorded, so you will be sent a recording via email. Also, we have a couple of links in our chat. There's a link to download the Mac app. There's also a link to our GitHub repository. Feel free to check that out. And if you have any further questions, feel free to join us on Slack. And also, if you have a team that you would like to solve a use case for with Anton, feel free to book a demo. All of those links are in the chat. Okay, I think that is it. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your day. Bye.
Thank you.